Hi there, and welcome to Story Time. It's so great to see you. Today, I want to tell you all about Amanda Aldridge, an incredible woman whose mark as a musician and artist helped shape and guide other storytellers in how they grew. Let's get started. Amanda Aldridge was a British mixed race, like me, opera singer, teacher, and composer. She was born on March 10th, 1866 in London. Her mother, Amanda Brandt, was born in Sweden and lived in London. Her father was Ira Aldridge. Can you guess what Ira Aldridge was famous for? Ira Aldridge was a famous African-American actor and the first Black actor to play Othello on the stage. Do you know who wrote the play Othello? Why, Mr. William Shakespeare, of course. As a mixed-race child living in Victorian London, I wonder how Amanda was seen by others. Did she have to answer questions about where she was from or the color of her skin? Well, I hope her parents were able to guide her through that, but I can imagine it wasn't very easy. Well, let's learn more about her. Amanda grew up and lived in Upper Norwood, London, which was a well-off suburb at the time. She went to study and train to be a singer and composer at the Royal College of Music in Kensington, London. Kensington was slightly closer to the center of London, and while a suburb at the time, it was growing to be a real part of the city. That would have been quite a distance from her home in Upper Norwood, and probably very different too. After completing her studies, she worked as a concert singer, piano accompanist, and voice teacher. Amanda had a lot of potential as a singer, but soon found out she had a throat injury caused by laryngitis, which ended her career as a professional singer. Getting laryngitis means that your vocal cords, the parts of your throat that help you to speak and sing, become irritated or swollen and don't work properly. Laryngitis usually happens because of an infection like a cold. The main symptoms are a croaky voice, sometimes losing your voice, a feeling like you need to clear your throat, and a sore throat. In extreme cases, laryngitis can also damage the vocal cords, which is what happened to Amanda. I think that must have been really painful for a talented and promising singer like her. Did you know that people still get laryngitis today? In 2011, the famous singer Adele had it and had to cancel her tour because of it. But thanks to treatment that is available today, she got better and she's still able to sing. Can you imagine how hard it must be if your dream of singing was suddenly ended by something that you couldn't take care of and nobody could help you get better? I think it must have been really sad for Amanda. But instead of giving up on her musical calling, she continued to put her knowledge as a singer to good use as a vocal teacher, teaching other actors and singers, and as a composer. Composing means writing and creating music. But Amanda didn't use her real name to release and publish her own music. She used a fake name. Can you guess what that name was? Montague Ring! Amanda published around 30 songs from 1907 to 1925, primarily in a romantic parlor style, as well as instrumental music in other styles. Well, it can't have been very easy to write one song, let alone 30 songs like Amanda did. Wow, that's amazing. Parlor music was performed in people's homes by amateur singers and pianists for small parties as a form of entertainment, as they didn't have TVs or video games back then. It was usually played in wealthy, middle-class households by those who could afford instruments like the piano, which was very new at the time. This shows that despite being mixed race in Victorian London, Amanda had had a fairly good education and living standard. Amanda wrote love songs, suites, sambas, and light orchestral pieces. She did this while caring for Lurana, her older sister by 6 years, who had also been an opera singer. Lurana had performed in London until the First World War. She became very ill with rheumatism, a painful illness that affects the joints, which meant she could no longer perform. This is how Amanda described his sister's condition when writing to W.E.B. Du Bois, an African-American writer and civil rights activist, about why she could not join the Second Pan-African Congress held in London in 1921. As you know, my sister is very helpless. I cannot leave her for more than a few minutes at a time. I don't know about you, but this makes Amanda even more inspirational to me. Another way Amanda's legacy as a musical storyteller is really important was as a teacher. Another way Amanda's legacy as a musical storyteller is really important was as a teacher. Some of her most famous students were Marian Anderson and Paul Robeson. Amanda taught and inspired the African-American actor and singer Paul Robeson to develop his technique in order to strengthen his powerful bass baritone voice. He was famous for both his artistic talents and his involvement with groups who fought for civil rights, way before Rosa Parks, both here in the UK and in America. When in 1930 he played Othello in the West End, like Amanda's father had, she went to watch him and gave him the gold earrings that her father, Ira Aldridge, had worn as Othello. When in 1930 he played Othello in the West End, like Amanda's father had, she went to watch him and gave him the gold earrings that her father, Ira Aldridge, had worn as Othello. Amanda's other famous student, Marian Anderson, broke barriers as America's first great Black opera singer, marveling audiences. Like Amanda, Marian would have found herself bearing the burden of representing, as a talented Black person, those who looked like her at a time when Black and white people were segregated in America. After a short illness, Amanda died in London on the day before what would have been her 90th birthday, 9th of March, 1956. I am glad that despite how confusing it would have been at times to see her place reflected in the world around her, she was able to pursue her musical talents and help others do the same. What did you learn from Amanda's story today? I learned never to give up on my dreams, even when times get really, really hard, and that we can make a difference in someone else's life and in the world around us, just like Amanda did. We are shaped and inspired by the effort, work, and achievements of our teachers and role models. Amanda Aldridge was not only an inspiring teacher, but an inspiring musician and storyteller in her own right. Thank you so much for listening to my story about Amanda today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. See you soon. Bye-bye.